You're listening to Technically PvP, a podcast about player versus player in the world of Warcraft.
For the glory of Stormwind! Victory or death!
It's October the 2nd, 2018, and you are listening to Technically PvP, a podcast where we analyze the various aspects of player versus player in the game World of Warcraft. Hey, I'm Jarisar, a PvP apprentice, and on behalf of Andelin and Winstead, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone in podcast land. I'm excited because today I'm recording on all of my brand new equipment, which has nearly ended my marriage and put me into an amazing situation where I'm going to be able to do some voiceover work. So I'm super excited, and I hope everybody notices difference. And if you don't, lie to me.
Mom, make the creepy man go away.
But nah, hey, we're back. I'm back. This is fantastic.
Yes.
So happy to be back.
I'm just glad it's all of us. And also, actually, we have a special guest today, like we normally do. But this one I'm really excited about. And I want to introduce Sam Cruse. Hey, Sam.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a little Terra excited about this one.
Why?
Well,
we're gentle souls.
And we are
mean,
very excited to have you.
You're the PvP apprentice, and I am like the bottom of the barrel PvP scrub of all time. So,
oh, it can't be that bad.
I
mean, you have earned at least 1,000 rating in arenas, right?
No.
All right,
Okay.
so we're gonna take Sam off the spotlight there. But how about Sam?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, at least. Like, what do you do, and where do you fit into World of Warcraft esports?
I currently am a freelance writer. I've done some work for Blizzard and some other publications like PC Gamer and the Esports Observer, primarily focused on PvP to some degree, and the MDI, the Mythic Dungeon Invitational, and then just some kind of general World of Warcraft related things, because that is
Awesome.
My love.
Well, so you fit right in then, because our love is also World of Warcraft and the esports and just everything there. So
Indeed.
see, you fit in right in. It's good.
I can pretend real good.
Well, at least you can write about it really good. So,
Yes.
Which is better than me. I can talk really good, but I don't. Me no write well.
Yeah. I'm good at the writings, not so much as with the implementation.
That's fine. All right. Well, guys and lady, let us at least go into what we've been up to for the last little bit in the game. So, Andelin, what have you been up to since our last show?
So, as some of the listeners may have noticed, or at least I've noticed, if we just copy and paste from last time we recorded to the next, it's basically the same thing. I've just been working really hard with my own Resurgent Esports broadcasting, my own brand that we've been running for the past year, and things are still going really well. Where each day is more and more exciting. We've started doing weekly tournaments that people come to. We play, we stream, we host, broadcast. It's great. Everyone has a lot of fun, especially us. And we do that every Monday. It's been really fun. But I've also gotten a really fun chance to kind of just take a breath and say, all right, I'm going to push and have a little fun. So right now I have hit 2,100 in all three brackets.
Wow.
Nice. In rated arenas, 3s, 2s, and battlegrounds?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Well done.
Done.
So that's
So
been
that
a
means
lot
you're
of fun.
primed to carry, right?
That's right. We'll talk about
do you
that.
even lift, bro? Do you lift? So I'm just kind of curious because I know you already had partners for your 2s and 3s, but for the RBGs, was that through friends that you have, or is that just through LFG, or how'd you go about that?
So, Resurgent has been a constantly molding thing here as it's been coming off the ground. But we actually now have access for people, if they're interested, they can apply for any of our group RBGs. We host community RBGs, and we assemble a main team that comprised of the top and most committed players of the organization, and that also goes for raids. So we have a heroic raid team that's also looking to try their hand at Mythic here pretty soon as well.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So
You got quite the community going there, Andolin.
we do. We have just crested over 600 members, and we're continuing to grow.
Nice. Congratulations there, man. Congratulations.
And yours truly has been not even had time to cook for himself. In fact, I'm still trying to multitask while we're doing this, and I had myself a nice microwave lasagna for dinner. So it's been a rough time.
Hey. Microwave lasagna is still cooking for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like you ordered out.
I'm kind of a kitchen guy. You know what I mean? Like, I like to cook. So, like, I worked at a restaurant for 6.5 years. So I'm pretty passionate about what I make in the kitchen. And, it kind of hurt. I would never offer this.
Wow. All right, then. So now that we know that Andolin is a sorrowful bachelor who is in need, any women or men who want to help care for Andolin, you can send your tweets to him at Andolin. His contact information is further down in the show notes. Sam, what have you been up to these last couple weeks?
So I have not logged in for a few days, but since I'm gainfully unemployed for the most part, I've been kind of going pretty ham on BFA. So I have my mage and I have my rogue, just trying to push through Mythic Plus there. And
Quick question on mage. What spec?
Oh, God.
This is very important.
I'm a fire mage at heart, but when you gotta do what you gotta do, I've been playing a lot of Frost. So
okay, good. We can be friends.
Fire is so
I can
strong.
fight for days.
What? Fire is not strong.
That's all I've played with. Fire, mage, rogue, HPAL.
I have not
in
touched fire
PvP,
yet.
in PvP maybe, but
Oh,
in PvE
sorry.
it got nerfed to the ground.
Excuse me for assuming on technically PvP.
Yeah, it's
So
not
sorry.
in a good place in PvE. There were some buffs that came out today, but I haven't had a chance to really look around and futz with it.
Of course.
But yeah, it always makes me sad when fire's weak. But
Yeah.
it's
It'll
early
come
expansion.
around.
That's usually how it goes, and then it scales magnificently well compared to the other two specs, and then it's OP and gets nerfed to the ground again, and the cycle repeats
Yeah.
itself.
Well,
Anyway.
you can commiserate with this because I know she was very upset about that as well. But all right, Winstead. Yes. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sam, have you been up to anything else though? I mean, you're out traveling there for a bit.
Yeah, I just went back home to visit family because it's been about 4 years since I've been up there. Because I'm a very country Montana girl living in California.
You gotta go see some mountains once in a while, right?
Yeah, I was.
I mean,
very
there are
excited
mountains in California though.
Node
so.
While we were up there, and got a chance to introduce my other half to my family because we haven't met them in person yet. And the weather shined upon him for snow. I was a little miffed, but it is what it is.
Oh. Yeah, there was some freak snow that kind of came across North America there, wasn't there? So
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he actually got to see what snow looks like because you live down in Irvine, right? So you guys probably don't see much else other than sunshine and the occasional rain.
Pretty
there,
much.
So.
Well,
Yeah.
it threatens to rain all the time and then never does.
It just burns up in the atmosphere. That's why.
Pretty much.
All right. Winstead, then, what have you been up to these last 2 weeks?
Oh gosh, it's been a month since I've been on the show. So I have all my characters are 110 plus. I'm coming down to finally deciding which healing spec I'm going to rest on, and I'm still between the Disc Priest and the Mistweaver Monk are my final two. Especially after hearing Andelin talk about Holy Paladins last show, I'm definitely like, doesn't sound that exciting.
We really did a terrible job at selling it.
You did such a bad job at making me want to play Holy Paladin. I'm still going to get it to cap. And my plans is that once I get all of the healers to cap, I'm going to play them all to 1,000 rating and give kind of a review on my feelings about them, and then I'm going to push them to 1,500, which I think is very doable without having to like isolate. I'm just going to play this one. And then once I get to 1,500, I'm going to give kind of a final review on, what healer is probably the easiest ones to get into for our listeners. Okay. Kind of my plan there. But yeah, I think I'm definitely resting between Discipline Priest and Mistweaver Monk for my final class there. And then, like I said in kind of the intro, I've been doing a ton of stuff with the equipment for podcasting. I've got a sound booth that I'm sitting in right now. I have a $500 microphone that I'm speaking into. I've been going really hard on to push towards voiceover work and have some plans to do some stuff in the near future, and hopefully we'll get good results from that.
Nice. Well, I remember us talking when we went to BlizzCon last year, and you had a great time talking to the guys and gals at the careers booth, and that was one of the things you really talked about. So I know you've been passionate about it, and I'm glad you've been able to just move forward into what you want to do. Yeah, no,
I'm really excited, and like I said, I hope our listeners can notice the difference, because I am speaking in a booth that I built myself that cost me around $500. I'm speaking into a microphone that I found on eBay for a screaming deal, and so I'm like really excited to dip my toe into this voiceover work, and Winstolen love this voiceover work, yes, comrade, and we also have, all the other different funny voices that I like to do that I want to jump right into so many, but at the same time, I'm like, it's really hard to jump in between them. But yeah, so I'm super excited.
I would say though, is me personally, in my opinion, I would say spending $1,000 on a bunch of equipment isn't dipping your toe. But you're about
I guess I'm yeah, man. I guess I can there, don't I? Speaking of which, man, Andelin, your accent, man, this needs work.
Your Russian needs work, bro.
All right, we be needing to do voice off. We be doing voice off later, man. We be doing voice off later, man. I'll meet you in Outland for it. Anyway.
Right. I could maybe compete with like my Pikachu voice, but that's about Pikachu.
Pika Pika. Pikachu.
Maybe when we're winding down, I'll do some of my other voices that I've been working on, and we can do it as a little after bonus for the show.
There you go.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
But yeah, so that's what I've been up to for the past month.
You've been busy. I know that. And I saw you on Twitter there as well. You were in New York. Yep. You said you're over there helping your brother some.
Yep.
And you're also looking for some more. So I guess you got some leads there for the voiceover stuff?
I definitely have some leads. I've been making some contacts in the YouTube world. I've actually started a YouTube channel that has 2 videos on it right now, and I'm going to be expanding more into that. But I'll when there's something actually to go see that's worth seeing, I'll go ahead and put out what that channel is.
Okay. And I'll be over on through your Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've already got a Twitter set up. I've got a web page started, but it's definitely just started, not finished. And a bunch of other little things that I'm working on. So lot to come in the future that's very World of Warcraft related, but should be really fun for people in the community anyway.
Cool. I look forward to seeing it. As for myself, I've been actually really casual with WoW. I've spent a couple hours here and there, haven't really been punching it very hard. Doing some auction house stuff, just trying to make gold, like I talked about before. Was casually leveling. I actually got my warrior to 110 or 120 today. I actually I got a little sick last week, and so over the weekend, thankfully my parents came to visit me and my son, and all of them had colds. So then that just like trifected, and I was called in. I've been sick the last couple of days, so I finally leveled out my warrior. Let's see what else I did. I was playing my disc priest with my fiance, so she was on her demon hunter, and so that's the time we spent together there.
Nice.
It was pretty fun. She actually got a little mad because we're sub 1600 or 116, so all my all my legendaries are still working in that, and I was like actually killing stuff before she was on my disc priest. She got a little mad. Let's see here. I ran a Hearthstone tournament here in my hometown. So I teamed up with a local used gaming store and they have a big setup there. So I ran a tournament there, which was really fun. That burnt almost a whole day because I did round robin instead of like double elimination in that. I didn't even realize how that was going to take.
Yep.
Oh, it was so much fun though. Yeah. Oh, you haven't. Yeah. Well, it was my first tournament, so I even screwed up my first time when I went to see the bracket, and I screwed up on the bracket. So we did one, and I was like, "Where's the next round?" And so I was like, I was using Battlefy, and after they comment to Battlefy, they were amazing. They contacted me via email and through their online chat right before the tournament started to make sure it was working. They were almost immediate in any response I needed on their chat. So they were able to help me out and sort what I screwed up on the brackets and reseed everything and get it going within 15 minutes, maybe.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it would have been faster, but they had to figure out what I did and how I did it to find the answer to the problem of what I did.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've gone to like Magic the Gathering tournaments. Yeah. And people have dropped the ball, and we wait like an hour for the next seeding. So 15 minutes,
oh, wow.
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah. It's because of this, like you said, Battlefy is really awesome for that. So other than that, like I said, I haven't been too serious about the WoW, but I have been, I've actually been online every day, but not really doing a lot, which is fine.
Well, I've almost got my healers up to 120, and then we'll have to start doing some twos.
That would be cool. And we are online a lot at the same time. It's just we're doing our own thing. So
yeah, I'm leveling, and you're, with your girlfriend, fiance.
Exactly.
So,
all right. Well, let's push into the rest of the show and see what we got going on.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
That's right. Get in there and fight, and let's talk about the upcoming WoW PvP events. So the newest ones, we have the third cup for EU and NA happening on the 5th and the 6th of October. So I believe the cutoffs are already done on this one for signing up. If anybody doesn't know, I'm just going to cover this quickly, at least for the points wise. The cup number 2 just finished last weekend. It was really amazing. The points, the amount of points that have been gained by the teams across the year is done. So we now know who are going to be the teams that are going to BlizzCon. That said, this is going to be amazing because this cup is not for who's actually going to go to BlizzCon, but it's going to finalize the points, which is going to be used for the seeding for BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to be fighting tooth and nail to try to get their best point scores up onto the standings so that they get the best seeding possible into the tournament. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in this tournament. Plus, not to mention, that's because people know who's actually going. We may see some kind of funky stuff happen. We may see some odd comps coming out because they may start doing some things, right? We'll see what happens. Anyways, so that's coming up on the 5th and 6th. I did some further... I talked about the GSA tournament last episode. I took all the German and actually put it through Google Translate this time. And I found, so the GSA Guild is running a 3v3 tournament on the 6th of October. This looks to be over in the EU only. And it's going to be, the top 4 is going to be streamed. So it's being done through Battlefy. If I read it correctly, you have to be in the guild. So if you're interested, you could just join the guild. And it's going to be done with Guild Gold.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the buy-in is actually gold, which is awesome. I mean, who doesn't have gold in game, right?
Me.
I know a few people.
Well, I've spent, I've
do that.
leveling all these different healers. I used all my gold to get a bunch of heirlooms. I mean, I had like 200,000 gold. Heirlooms, fast flying, and everything else, I'm down to like under 20k.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you buy the stuff
to heirlooms is just get cloth.
Well, and then that's a way of doing it, but I wanted each class and everybody to have their own stings and, to optimize my leveling pursuit. And so
Yeah.
I did that, and so I'm broke. Fortunately, my wife is rich.
I don't know why, because knowing you, I'm surprised you didn't have all the game tokens from the Dark Moon Fair. You just didn't do it through that.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have. I don't do a Dark Moon Fair very much. No.
Really?
No.
I kind of thought you did.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, on to the next one. So Resurgent Esports, you got a tournament happening on the 12th and the 13th, right, Andelin?
13th and 14th. So those are the broadcast days. I have a certain asterisk there as a hey, in the situation that we get a bunch of teams, we may start games on the 12th off stream just to whittle us down to the top 8.
Oh,
there
my
you go.
mistake.
That is all. But if you are interested, and you ought to be interested, you can go check out all the information on that Battlefy site. We've got some really cool prizes with the Murloc headpiece that has a chance to Titan Forge, and I've already heard that Envious and Malcazar and his friends are playing, and they fully intend to win this tournament and wear the headpieces on the flight to BlizzCon. So what that says is they need some competition.
Yes. All right.
There we go.
Get in there and fight, people. So the link for the Battlefy is going to be in the show notes. Get in there, check it out, and yeah, let's make Envious and his friends actually earn the Murloc headpiece.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I know I'm running through this a little quick, but there is a lot of news, and we need to get through.
All right! Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
Well, I think Blizzard did this week there, Manastorm. So, PvP news. Holy moly, has it been busy with the tournaments. There was the Apac Finals, which happened on the 22nd and the 23rd. I'm not sure if you guys watched this or not. That was a pretty good showing, in my opinion. They had South Korea, Taiwan, and Australia. Several teams playing. I saw, it was a really good showing. There was some really good team play. Personally, I was a little surprised, but Mad Dog ended up winning. And so I actually found this really interesting because Featherfeet was a friend of Vindy, who was our Holy Pally friend from last episode. He was on that team. And so I want to say congratulations to Yoski, Oxygen, Featherfeet, and Fresh for winning that. So they walked away with a healthy prize pool there in their pocket of just short of $19,000 for winning.
Nice.
And they earned themselves their seat at BlizzCon, which I think is even more important. So Gronks, who were the area favorite, in my opinion, they got second place, and we got Give It and Team Beast, which I believe were from. Oh shoot, I'm gonna get this wrong. They were from Korea, I think. Yeah, they were from Korea. So they got third and fourth. So I don't know if you guys watched that or not. I didn't watch a bit of it.
I didn't watch the Australian one. I did dip in and out a lot of the EU and the US tournament.
Okay.
Our boy Dilly did a great job casting, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I thought he did an amazing job. I'm looking forward actually because I think that's where he's going to go next into the world. But we'll talk about that in a bit.
We'll hold on to him as long as we can, but yes.
Oh, please. I want, yeah. Yes.
That's right.
All right. So one that came out of the blue, I was looking for, I heard a hint of it, but I was looking for the news for it, and I never saw it until it already started. But the Latin America finals actually happened on the same weekend, the 22nd and the 23rd. So Unitas Red actually earned the final first place there, and they got their seat to BlizzCon. So that's Aiden, Josita Jones, Pride, and Shadow X. So I want to say congratulations to them to winning that. And that was actually a really interesting tournament. There was some I like watching the South American tournament only because, well, two reasons. One, I don't understand a thing that's being said, so I actually have to pay attention to the UI and watch everything, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, I get super hyped because listening to these guys speaking in Spanish, because I watched the Spanish one, not the Portuguese stream, but it's so hype. Like when they get excited, holy moly, do they get excited! It's more hype than Super Tees. It is.
Have you ever seen?
That's impressive.
Have you ever seen Mexico broadcast soccer?
Yes.
I mean, they get hyped about that. No offense
so
to
imagine
soccer,
that, but for WoW esports. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they get hyped. They are very passionate people.
It is. It's like the same level. And the amount of interaction with the community, because they do their own hashtag Copa America, and so they'll do prizes and there's tweets out there, and they actually bring up a lot of the tweets, and they'll like take minutes in between to talk about that stuff and highlight it during the stream, which is really cool.
Remind me, didn't we have you had the opportunity to interview the founders of Unitas?
I did.
So, I mean, that's their boys that are making it back to BlizzCon this year, which props to them, and really look forward to seeing them again.
I will also throw out that Unitas was an official sponsor of our last tournament.
They were, yes. And
they also have competed in every single one of our tournaments and won.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, all right. Even more to look after. This is, I personally, I like Unitas because after talking with them and everything they stand for, I really like to, I don't want to,
they're a great couple of guys.
When I see their name, my heart swells in pride for them.
Makes you smile.
Makes you smile. You are very awesome guys.
Yes, they are.
Shout out to them.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so we got we just talked about it there quickly, but the second cup for EU and NA also happened just the weekend that passed. So I want to say congratulations to XRB to the moon for finishing first for the second cup in EU, and the Gosu crew, formerly as the Move, took first place for the NA Cup. So I'm going to put up the Liquipedia links up into the show notes there. For the EU Cup, did anybody? I don't know if you guys watched that or not. I watched some really cool. I love some of the gameplay though.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys see anything in particular stick out for you guys?
A lot of disc priests showed up in the EU. That was something that really stuck out to me as I was, of course, I'm leveling a disc priest right now. So, but yeah, no, a lot of disc priests. It seemed like the different metas that have formed up is very interesting between the US and the EU. And I'm really interested to see if at last the US could possibly unseat the EU. Because every time a disc priest showed up on the US side, they got smashed. It didn't go well for the disc priests. And so I'm wondering if that will continue forward in the meta when we go up against the EU.
Well, it's just disc priest isn't going to fare well against the heavy damp from Resto Druid into the EU meta.
Yeah, and so I'm interested to see how because the metas have formed, and I'm interested to see when the metas clash now. Because, like I said, I think the disc priest meta is not going to fare well against the US meta, but I'm not going to dispute that EU's has had a very dominant role for the last several years at BlizzCon, and so I'm definitely not counting them out by any stretch of the means.
Sam, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't catch a lot this weekend since I was out of town, but I do remember the cross kill. But
love it when that happens.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was super fun trying to explain arenas to my dad, who is 66.
Mm-hmm. You too, eh? Yeah. I had the same. My parents were here, and I was watching it. I was watching the VODs after the fact, and my dad was like, what are you watching? It sounds like you're watching football or something, just because you could only hear the casting. And wasn't really paying attention to what's going on.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, this is esports. And they're like, oh, is this like that thing you went to last year? I'm like, yeah, imagine that, but with the people right in front of you, and you're sitting with 50,000 other people screaming at them, and their eyes just kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was. The reason I had gone up was because it was my dad's birthday, so I was making a cheesecake for the birthday cake, and I'm, just muttering and kind of yelling at the screen. I was like, "What is going on?" Because it's funny because it was so similar to my stepmom, who was downstairs watching another TV, yelling at her cubbies who were getting crushed half the time. So
that's awesome.
It was funny. We're like, hey, so, to make it into kind of digestible esports versus traditional sports, and kind of like, we have the same kind of passion and, that sort of thing, just for watching different things.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
That works.
It's always interesting trying to make a person who watches traditional sports or only knows it cursorily to then try to relate that back to esports. So, well, I just want to highlight this then. So if people don't know, there was this awesome time. It was making a movie versus Tempo Storm, and it was this epic cross kill where both the healers died. If I'm not oh no, sorry, not both the healers. It was one player on each team. It was a healer and a DPS on the other team, and that happened. It was around 40% dampening. It was one point on each team, so it was a swing match to figure out who was going to get the lead into that competition. And it actually ended up going till 63% dampening, where Tempo Storm actually won. And it was really because it was Frost Mage and Enhancement versus Resto Druid and Frost Mage. And the Enhancement Shaman off healing was strong enough that it actually carried them for 20% dampening. Basically, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a great match.
It was. The one thing that amazed me, Tempo Storm knocking out Method Black.
Yeah.
Like, first off, Method Black ending up in the bracket where they could get knocked out. Like, I don't know what the hell happened there. But then Tempo Storm taking out the number one team in EU completely. It was
an overwhelmingly number one team. Like, if you haven't seen the point standings, the desperate, disparity between first and second play XRB to the moon versus Method Black is nearly double. Like, it's like Method Black has taken such a commanding lead, and it definitely exerted the dominance that we have not really seen before.
It's a 300-point spread.
Yeah. Oh, 300? Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, 300 points. We're talking about a whole nother tournament that you'd have to place in the top two in.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, how much is first place?
I believe it's 180.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking two tournaments you have to place first place in
order to catch up to Method.
Yeah, if you were in second place,
Sorry, my bad. It's 225 for first place, but still, you have to get first place, and the other team would have to not play.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Although one last little comment on this last weekend tournament, it seemed to me that a lot of people were trying new things, and the level of play suffered a little bit for that. There were definitely some moments in some games that I was watching, and I'm just like, oh, that doesn't seem like the right choice. That doesn't seem like the teams were playing their A game a lot of the time. There was a few matches where it was very... I think with the new metas forming, with the new expansion, there was definitely some misplays and some learning curve that was going on.
Well, especially with the recent removal, for all intents and purposes, of the tank trinkets.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, they had hot fixes right up until that week as well on the PvP side, which we'll talk again in a second. But like, how can you know exactly what you're going to be playing against when you haven't had the opportunity to even really play that? And I think you can kind of see the level of practice in the teams, because you're right. There are some teams that look like they were learning how to respond to things on the fly.
Yeah.
Which speaks of these guys' skill, the fact they're able to do that and still come across where they're getting wins or getting some kills in that. But yeah, I agree. You can even hear in the commentators where they're like, you can even the questioning of why are they doing that? But
Yeah, no,
it is what it
and to
is.
shout out to my boy Cubsy, my dark horse for last year at BlizzCon with Panda Global. They were playing the Rejects as their new team, and there were just a couple of moments I was watching them, and I'm just like, oh, guys, come on, you're better than this. You can do so much better than this. What is going on? And they got knocked out of the running, and my heart broke a little bit.
So let's talk about the NA Cup then, since we're going into there. So this team Neat comes out of the blue. Nobody knows who these guys are, and they knock out. You do?
Yes,
Who
they
are
won
they?
that tournament. It's Tiber and Nick, and I almost beat them in twos. I was so sad.
So hold on, are they a Resurgence
Yes.
team that decided to go pro?
They are. They are the most recent Resurgent champion, who is your cue the music BlizzCon champion of tomorrow.
There you go.
Hey.
I wish I had the tiger sitting in the background here or something.
Well, and
wish.
I can't tell you, Andolin, how happy that makes me to hear that these guys are, they're competing in the I'm not going to call it necessarily amateur league, but the community league. Yeah, they're just the guys that, hey, we like this game, we're pretty good at it, and they win a tournament in, the Resurgence, and they're like, hey, guys, maybe we're good enough to, like, go pro. And they sit back and think about it and like, we could try. Why not try? And then they just come out of nowhere. And I mean, they made quite the impact. I mean, because I think it was them that was, I mean, it wasn't necessarily, they could not make it to BlizzCon, but they got to choose who did.
Exactly.
And that whole upset right there was just amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, this team out of nowhere decided who goes to BlizzCon. And they did fantastic. It was a great match. Great set of games by them.
Well, I mean, they made a dent into Method Orange when they went against them. They knocked the Super Rejects out of the upper bracket into the lower bracket. They knocked the Rejects out of the lower bracket. Like they did amazing. I think. And they knocked out Shore. That was the other known team. Yeah, they actually made it. They made it into the final bracket on the lower side, and they went toe to toe to Super Frogs and made Super Frogs earn their paycheck.
Oh yeah,
let's just say that.
No, it was a wonderful surprise there. It's very happy for me. I mean, I don't know how old the team is, how old the players are on the team, but young blood coming up that's starting to compete. That's really nice. That's great to see.
Agreed. All right. Well, that's it for the tournament stuff that happened. Let's get into the actual game news. Hot fixes. So there's a bunch of stuff that happened there. A couple things. One, we already mentioned it. The trinket got nerfed almost immediately after the last NA EU Cup. Not surprised.
I'm glad to hear that one too.
Me too. What was it? I did this. I want to talk about this one. So the Spirit Link talent, not the actual totem, but the Spirit Link talent, they changed it so it actually has a cast time, so you can kick it. So they kind of got rid of that completely from tournaments. I don't think anybody ran it this tournament. The big red button, which was talked about last tournament as well, got nerfed. Only because I think people realized that if they could stack it, then there was an opportunity there where you could literally just blow somebody out of the water with it, which seemed too much. And the rest was just more class and trait balancing. There were some bugs that needed to get fixed as well with some of the traits where they weren't triggering properly or doing what they're supposed to do. I didn't see. Did anything stand out to you guys? Otherwise, I didn't see anything particularly that I was surprised by or thought was a little bit overreactionary. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Nothing that really stands out to me. I mean, I hope that the tinkering can slow down a little bit and that we can hopefully stabilize. I mean, especially as we're coming up to BlizzCon, I want, as we roll into BlizzCon, I'm hoping that we have a solid, 3-4 weeks of, okay, this is what they're playing with. This is where they're at. Let's just roll it. After this next tournament, I really hope that the hot fixes and things like that just go away, at least until after BlizzCon.
Yeah.
I don't. I want Warlocks to be fixed. I want Warlocks to get buffed again.
But I will tell you, Warlock is the only class that I've been two-shotted by.
Really?
Yep, I've been two-shotted. Two 68k hits. Boom, boom, dead. No bubble. I literally, I flipped my keyboard and I walked downstairs.
Wow.
Not honest. I mean,
was that the
mildly.
yeah?
Hyperbole.
Was that the life drain where they stacked the corruption?
Stacked up with the yeah. So
the corruption train.
The thing is, it's counterable, but it's you got to kick that drain life, But it's just I feel like they need to do a little bit of fixing of Warlock, but I feel like it's people take a very uninformed opinion and just run with what people say, which is Warlocks are terrible, they're not playable, like go ahead and switch off of a Warlock if you can't play it. And it's like, that's not true. The only thing is they've been gutted in their defenses, so it just feels really bad to heal one. Like Vindy plays with a Warlock. It just feels bad to heal one because they've been gutted in the way of defenses. However, There's a lot of maps that favor that Warlock ability. If your ability is a Warlock to kite, if you don't have the ability to kite as a Warlock, then it's going to be impossible for you to win now. But I think people have gone off and been a little over exaggerating, and just honestly in a very uninformed way about the current state of Warlock, and that isn't to undermine that it absolutely is. There is there's a lack of showing of Warlocks, but I feel like that's not necessarily due to the current state, but it's also due to the media type effect of if everyone's broadcasting that Warlocks are bad, no one's going to play them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Warlocks are doing really well in 2s because they don't have the same pressure put upon them that they do in 3s.
I've never seen a Warlock in 2s.
Haven't seen a Warlock in 2s? Okay.
After doing about 100 200 games. Yeah.
I'd say Warlocks do really well in PvE.
Yeah,
because
Yes, they do. Yeah, but I've seen Warlocks be pulling upwards of 20k DPS in RBGs. We played some 2600 MMR RBGs on Saturday, and both our Warlocks did each of them did or 6 million. It just an insane amount of damage.
Well, yeah, that's just gear talents and tab ... tab ... right, and then your DPS goes up. So I want to just come back to I'm just a little shocked and absolutely I'm dismayed, Andolin, that you think that there's people in the community that are making comments uninformed and inflammatory about a spec in class because they died to it without knowing exactly what happened.
Right.
I
know.
I can't believe that would be happening in today's age. The community would never do that.
Yeah, it's the same kind of game in PvE where...
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, I remember months ago, even I guess a couple of years ago, I was talking about how, I would say it was Legion beta, and I was really miffed because there's all this PvP or PvE stuff. You could go onto the beta, you could get a character load up, and it was all PvE. You had to go through all the leveling process. It was all PvE, and then but there's no PvP servers. There's nothing really there. And I pointed it out on the forums and said it was we don't want people to be able to play right at 120 because then they'll come over they'll come over onto our forums uninformed and make comments, and Blizzard will be reactionary and nerf us to the ground, right? I'm like, well, technically that could happen anyways because people do that just to nerf you so that they get buffed. So meh.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just happy they actually did that this beta where they actually had PvP servers, and you could it took a while until it wasn't right at the beginning, obviously, because they had to get everything else set up for it. But then once they're ready for it, we actually had those servers. We can make 120s and actually just go right into PvP and play it, and I thought that was really cool. I know I didn't do a lot of it, but I thought it was really cool. Anyways, let's see here. What else? I want to play this one out because I don't know if you guys know about this. I didn't know about it. I found this only luckily through Twitter. is the whole thing about line of sight with Starfall. And I'm kind of assuming this is with a lot of the other AoE stuff, and I had no idea. So what it was is there was a person. He went in. He went down. I'm saying he because when I was watching, it was the clip from a stream, and I could hear it was a guy. And he went and he sat down behind a pillar to drink, and a Starfall got dropped onto the pillar, and it didn't break his drink. He didn't put it back in the comment. He wasn't drinking, and they talked about it afterwards. And this actually came back through the Warcraft devs, where they acknowledged and they said, yeah, that's true. Is the Starfall in this case particular, the person has to be within line of sight of the center. If they're not in line of sight of the center of the Starfall ring, it won't put them into combat.
Whoa!
I didn't know that.
That is crazy.
Right? Yeah.
And that's a big change, too, because that's never really been the case. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know when they implemented it, but they did.
So
and
we'll
I think
have
really
to be
important.
more careful with our blizzards as Frostmage.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. If you're using it to stop if you want to put somebody into combat, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, you can still use it just as a AoE zoning to block out an area.
Is this
but
just for Starfall or for all similar type of abilities?
see, I don't know. This one was just talked about with Starfall.
Okay, so we don't know if this applies to Blizzard.
I have no idea, but I'm guessing. I am questioning that if one AoE spell has this, are all the AoE spells the same, or no?
And that would be the safe assumption, is that it would affect all AoE spells. I mean, because you can talon into Blizzard and it gets really big. And there's been many times in the past, especially during Legion, that I would use Blizzard to do that, to make sure people stayed in combat. I mean, that was a classic opener, is that I'd cast Blizzard around the corner of a pillar and slow everybody to give my teammate the opportunity to dive in and to make sure that they would be able to connect.
So, but that would be, so then people are then running into it, so they become line of sight at the center.
Yeah,
But
so I would have to dive in
drop it on the
more.
pillar.
Yeah, if I would have to dive in more and go kind of to the side of the pillar rather than like on the pillar, if that makes sense.
What I think more specifically is if you put it on the pillar and the circle goes through the pillar to the other side,
Then
the
it wouldn't
question is
catch
on
them.
that other side, which is, well, yeah, it shouldn't if this is true, because they're out of the line of sight
Yep.
of the center point of that AoE.
Hmm.
All right. So a couple other things. Somebody did some math, then they did some more math, and then they did some calculus, and they found the function of proportion, which is Azerite power wasn't exactly what they designed it to be. So Blizzard has come back and acknowledged that there has been some issues. And if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, this was pretty crazy. So the whole idea behind the scaling and everything was item level was still supposed to matter. A person with a higher item level was supposed to still be more powerful than a person with lower item level, but the difference was supposed to be squished, right? And we talked about this. We've talked about this several times. But then somebody found, and they did a bunch of mathematics, they did a bunch of testing, and they found the empirical evidence that Azerite power, somebody put a negative in the wrong spot, and it was scaling inversely. So a person with let's say a 280 item level with certain talents on Azerite power, their Azerite was actually doing more damage than a person with, I don't know, let's say 320. In fact, it was directly inversing. So as far as I know, Blizzard has gone back and they've done some more tweaking on this. But that was a little discouraging after everybody, like they're talking about how they had it, they knew exactly what it was, and you're good to go. But the fact that Azerite traits were scaling inversely is it just doesn't.
The whole Azerite system has been, I mean, I hear a lot from the community about it's not working the way it was intended. Preach Gaming has put out a lot about that. A lot of other channels that I follow are very much on the that the gear had good intentions, but unfortunately, application-wise, it's not filling the role that they wanted. And so it's really... there's a lot going on with it, and hopefully that they can, hopefully salvage it in some way, shape, or form. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So we might be stuck with some of these crazy things for a while. Like me personally, I wish they wouldn't stack Azerite traits.
Yeah, the Azerite trade stacking sucks.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like that.
Has anybody else had any experience with this where they found the gear just wasn't doing as good as they thought it was going to, or?
Well, it's been a little bit of a mystery. Some other sites have come out with different things, like Blood Mallet has been a really good resource for most of the community to be able to go, kind of be able to get the raw data to be able to determine what the best throughput and like actual like gains are from each ability. So I don't know. But it's still for healers. It's been very much up in the air. There's really no guiding thing. As Vindy and I kind of talked about last episode, just kind of feel it out. But personally, I haven't had issues with stacking of Azerite traits. I know that's something that if you get rid of, I have a feeling a few Frost mages might be a little upset because I know that's been a very, very vital part of what's. Oh yeah, no,
it would definitely warp the entire fabric of the game right now if you were to get rid of it. But I think that because what the stacking is doing is that it's breaking certain abilities. The way that it stacks is just making certain abilities that if you're not stacking those abilities, you're just not going to win against somebody who is.
True.
So it's really a weird spot to be in where, you want people to be happy with the gear that they're getting and that the abilities that they're getting from the Azerite armor are affecting their play. But at the same time, it's making it so that if you don't have that gear in that exact format, that you're not going to be able to compete, which, it's pre-Legion style. And I really enjoyed the Legion of, hey, eye level matters, and then you're templated. I really enjoyed that. I think if they would have brought in some kind of reforging to help you customize your template a little bit, that would have solved the problem. But with the way it is now, I've got, I'm still playing all the healers. I've got some commitments to play healers up to certain levels is what I'm going to do. And until I get those items, I'm going to be hampered, and it's going to be hard because I'm not focusing on one character definitively through the entire time. I'm way behind everybody when it comes to PvP. I have 0 rating on my shaman. I've got 0 rating on all the characters that are under 120. I'm so far behind in everything because I've just been pushing for these levels. So
it'll
be
interesting. I'm about the same. You're fine. Besides, the season 1 is Wild Wild West right now, right? So
yeah,
same thing in all of them. It's fun. You're all right. All right. Yeah, I think I just want to say this quickly is I think the difference is that the stacking of Azerite power is what has warped the fabric, and I think a disallowing of that would bring it kind of back to more of a even playing field. That said, I believe some of the traits are have been tweaked because of the stacking. Maybe there's some, but under the assumption that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe the only way to fix it would be to not, rather than just allow it, add in a like a diminutive return based on stacking.
Yeah.
So
something like that. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see your last.
Levelization isn't necessarily a bad thing sometimes especially when it doesn't have a diminishing return. It gets out of hand because then you get into the haves and the have-nots of stuff, and that kind of defeats the purpose of putting people on an even playing ground.
Especially when you're talking about a gear that has a randomization of what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
they're asking us. Go ahead. What was that, Sam?
Oh, I was just saying the traits themselves are fixed, but it's a matter of like what you end up looting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like what if I don't get the loot, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys see the reference to McDonald's chicken nuggets?
What?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so somebody referred to the randomization, like the War Forging and Titan Forging and all that,
Yeah.
to chicken nuggets. So what if I walked into McDonald's and I got I earned my money and I walked in and I bought myself a 4-piece of chicken nuggets. And I feel pretty good because I bought a 4-piece of chicken nuggets. I had it with money and I got what I wanted. And then in comes Winstead and he walks in and he orders a 4-piece of chicken nuggets and ends up getting, miraculously for some unknown reason, a 12-piece with fries and an extra large drink.
Titan Forge.
Chick-fil-A last week.
Yeah.
It's such a weird comparison. Like, I get the idea that they're going after, but like, it's different. This is where it comes into like, this is a game, these are not tangible goods sort of thing. But
exactly.
Yeah, and so a lot of the like Titan Forging and War Forging, it really plays into player psychology in terms of like rewards and keeping people engaged, because it kind of scratches that itch of, well, maybe next time, that's how you keep subs. Like, honestly, it's so much not of like what you're actually getting, it's how they kind of keep you. And like, for me, especially in Legion, I enjoyed it because I was not raiding at all I did was run Mythic Plus, and so for me that was enough to feed the thing that made me the most excited, that I got the most satisfaction from, because I always had that incremental growth to hit. And so I was rating geared minus the tier bonuses. So, like ultimately I did end up starting to pug a little bit just to get like my 4-piece if it was good and that sort of thing. But like for me, it met the satisfaction metrics that I wanted it to. But with BFA, it's kind of a little bit of a different animal in that regard.
I agree. I think that's the one thing that people miss out on is it's not that you're walking into, if you walk into McDonald's once in 3 months and that happens to you every time you walk in 3 months, that's kind of it'd be miff you, right? But if you're walking into McDonald's every day and that's happening, chances are you're gonna be the one that's walking away with the 12-piece and the fries and the drink, and somebody else is gonna be standing there with the 4-piece going.
Right,
But
and that
guys
doesn't
like
even account for like the bad luck protection sort of thing.
Exactly. It's more almost like walking up and waiting in line for about 30 minutes in McDonald's, and then realizing once you order, they say, "Hey, we actually just ran out of chicken nuggets."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man, such a downer, Andolin.
Sorry.
Such a downer.
No, I'm a realist, Winstead. I'm a realist.
I have the strongest craving for chicken nuggets right now.
Okay, we all know you messed up by going to McDonald's. You're supposed to go to Chick-fil-A, because that actually happened to me at Chick-fil-A yesterday. I got extra food. I was like, oh, they totally did mess up.
Wow. I have no idea where that is, because...
Poor Canadian.
Yeah.
Really feel sorry. Really feel sorry for you.
That's why they call us Canada, not Canada. Because we can't have it, apparently.
Sorry.
Imagine if Tim Hortons was ordained by the Lord to bring food to Canada. That is what Chick-fil-A is.
By Lord Jaraxxus? I would never want to eat that.
Oh, man.
All right.
So I think
last couple of pieces in the news. I want to punch through these.
Yes.
They talked about this during the Esports Last Cup. If anybody doesn't know, Tempo Storm, they changed up their roster. So Botar is now part of Tempo Storm, EU team. Unfortunately, strange timing. They decided to do it after the named lockout happened. So that's why Tempo Storm didn't do so well during the second cup. They were only down to a 3-man team because Botar couldn't play because he was locked out. Minpoike, on the other hand, was locked out of the team by the player base, by the other teammates. They said they didn't want to play with him anymore. He was very open about it. It caused a bunch of drama across the Twitter sphere and other social media stuff. But ultimately, Minpoike has decided to now be a content creator. He's still part of the Tempo Storm name brand. He's just not part of the arena team with Alec and such.
There must have been some really crazy stuff going on to make that happen.
And if you see the thing, Poike was really taken back by it because he thought things were going really well.
Yeah.
And just out of the blue, he logged in to play with them, and
I saw
said,
I saw
"We
the
don't want to
story,
play
and it
anymore."
was very much like that's odd. And
Mhm.
we'll see what Tempo Storm can do with it. We'll see how they manage with their roster change. But
I mean, really, Botar is and we saw what
He's like the granddaddy. He's been around forever.
yeah,
well, not just
So good.
two-time BlizzCon champion. He is a multi-classer god, right?
mm-hmm.
And like the stuff that he is going to bring to the team. In fact, actually, I was over on the Liquipedia Discord and we are talking about it, and somebody even said they're like, when this first came out, they're like, is he still playing? I thought he like just disappeared. And no, he's still playing. And yeah, here he comes, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be amazing to see him not only play the third cup, but Temple Storm also made it to BlizzCon, so we'll be seeing them at BlizzCon.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what becomes of that. But poor Poike. I can't pronounce that. Yeah.
So I want to talk about this. I want to say this really quickly. It's not in the show notes, but so in case anybody doesn't know, it's out there. But so these are the teams that have qualified for BlizzCon. From the EU, you got Method Black, XRB to the Moon, Making a Movie, Tempo Storm, and Reformed. NA, you have Method Orange, the Gosu Crew, and Super Frogs. Latin America is Unitas Red. APAC is Mad Dogs. China, Pen and Paper, and Cohesion Dream. So that there is the 12 teams that are going to be at BlizzCon.
Game on, my friends.
I would be amazed if NA made it. But let's just say, all right, the dream is still alive.
We have 3 teams that could possibly do it. And I will say, of the teams that got out for the USA, those are definitely, I mean, I don't think I can dispute that those are the 3 best teams, and they have performed the best overall throughout the entire year. They have consistently been in the top every tournament. They're not that one-hit wonder type crew. So I'm hopeful that they'll be able to carry it.
True. All right. Last but not least, IRL PvP. Who doesn't like IRL PvP? Do you like IRL PvP there, Winston?
I've been in IRL PvP. It's stressful.
Mm-hmm. I know.
How many? Let's see. 200 casualties treated personally.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so you're the wrong person. All right, Andalin, do you like IRL PvP?
Oh, dude, I love IRL PvP.
All right, I love it too.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
Okay. Oh, you didn't hear?
No.
So
what's going on?
Medieval times. They helped support Con Before the Storm.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, they put enough money to push Con Before the Storm beyond their last tier to get the World of Podcasts happening again, which is what we're going to be part of.
I've heard about this
in the near future. Yeah. They just dropped today. They have a discount code.
Oh, wow.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So if anybody's going to BlizzCon, go into the BlizzCon area. I'll put the link in, or you can just search Con Before the Storm tweet. It's up there. Go to their Discord. All the information is there. Has the code that you type in. You can do it by phone. You can do it by logging in over their website. And I don't believe there's a specific time frame, so it doesn't have to be on the weekend, like if you're showing up a little bit early, or if you're staying behind a little bit later after the con. You can go to Medieval Times and watch some IRL PvP.
Okay, yeah, I'm totally fine with that PvP. I was really concerned there when we started talking about real life PvP, because I've been there. I don't want to do that again.
What you know is that outside of the convention center, there's going to be a Horde versus Alliance, like West Side Story, Gang War.
LARPing.
Okay, so dance off. Okay, I'm in on a dance off. I think I could do that.
Okay,
No. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get some beer bottles in my fingers, and I'm just gonna start clinking them and go, Warriors.
Oh boy.
Oh, God.
And if anybody understands exactly what I'm talking about, you're as old as I am, and I love you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I want to be intoxicated.
I'm in. Garsar, I'm in. I got you. I caught the reference.
Excellent. We'll have to do that. All right. That's it for the news. Now to our subject of analysis.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
All right. So the reason why we're here is I want to talk to you, Sam. You have been this inspirational part to esports, and I just love reading all your articles, seeing everything that's been coming up. I was so just overjoyed seeing your name on the articles that Blizzard had actually commissioned from you. And we were talking a little bit across the Liquipedia Discord that I was talking about previous, right? And I really wanted to talk to you because I feel that there are so many other people out there that kind of like myself. Like, the reason why we're talking is because I was talking about the whole my personal consternation of possibly casting or anything like that, because I know I say a lot. I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel I have no ability to say that I know what I'm talking about because I don't have the rating or anything. I'm not like, a multiple rank 1 previous BlizzCon player like Supa or Venruki or Ziku or anything like that, right? So, and you're even like, come on, Garrison, like, so yeah. So I was like, you know what? I forget about like how much and what exactly goes into all this writing and everything that you do. So I guess you kind of covered this a little bit at the beginning, but you've been writing your articles now for a few years, right?
Yeah. So I've been working with BlizzPro for a while. Mostly, like, a lot of times there's a lot of stuff that you don't see my name on because I help do some editing on the background, but I've written guides and that sort of thing, and like copy for podcasts and that sort of thing. So it's been kind of building up into what I'm doing now.
Oh, okay. So what got you into doing that then?
Yeah, so what exactly are you doing right now? Besides talking to us, three podcasters.
So, like, the amount of stuff that's going on right now kind of started in January of this year. I've worked for the same company for 10 years, doing finance and that sort of thing, and they had announced that they were going to close our office and relocate to Arizona. Well, my other half works for Blizzard. That wasn't really an option for us, so had to start kind of worry about doing other things. And so a friend of mine that was working with esports publishing, they're not there any longer, but they were like, hey, we're going to work on this thing for Mythic Dungeons, and you talk about it all the time. You're so knowledgeable, and your enthusiasm is infectious. Let me put you in contact with my editor and, give them a pitch of some stuff that you want to do. So come February, that's what I did, and didn't hear anything for a little while. But then they eventually had me do like a writing test, and my writing test was the silliest thing. So I did a coverage write-up, GDQ, Games Done Quick, of Guacamelee. So trying to break down a speed run of Guacamelee in kind of a like esports coverage format. So, and
interesting.
They loved that. I forwarded that and like this massive long list of pitch ideas for content for PvP and PvE, which ultimately a lot of that ended up becoming the Mid-Game Moves series, which was a continuation of opening moves that had occurred earlier in January. And so that's kind of how I landed that. And then they also needed MDI coverage, like what they do for the arenas, which Ian does the arenas coverage for the weekends tournaments, and he does a fantastic job. So it was a little bit daunting to be like, oh, hey, can I do this with, such the same kind of reception? And so just kind of been doing that, and with freelancing while I was waiting for my company to actually end up their closure, which happened in August. And so just kind of like people knew that I was writing and looking for things to do. And every time they saw somebody tweet about needing Warcraft writers, they'd hit me up. So, I'd forward my work and that sort of thing. And so that's why I ended up doing some marketing content for PC Gamer. My name's not actually on those because they were marketing content and sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
But those were super, super fun to do, kind of preview things for BFA, different features, and that sort of stuff. And then the latest was Esports Observer. So like there's lots of things kind of few and far between, but it's been a really fun experience to work with different companies and see like what their process is and what exactly they're looking for, and just kind of let my love for WoW just spring off the page or the screen.
And I have to admit, I was so happy when I saw the Esports Observer article that you did, and the fact your name was on it. I was very prideful just because I know of you and I've followed some stuff, and seeing that there and seeing what you wrote, it was very, very well done.
Yeah, that was a really hard article to write, which you wouldn't think so because it was just kind of a cursory overview. But that's kind of one of the things that if you're really, really embedded in the scene, like you're used to all the jargon and the nuance and all the minutia, and like realistically, from a business perspective, like they don't necessarily care about all of that. They just want to know, what is this, what kind of, basically how much money can be made from this, and like, because WoW is such a strange target for esports, but yet we have two different kinds that are, very, very successful, constantly growing, and millions of players that are eager to latch onto that and watch. And so being able to bring that to people that are completely unfamiliar with WoW esports was just really awesome, but it was also kind of a challenge to put it together.
I can see that. I have to ask, and this isn't to try to challenge you or anything, but where did you learn to write in that? Like, you just did it, like, is it like you started doodling in the back of the class kind of thing, and then you just kind of decided to start writing, and then you've just done it as a hobby? Did you get some professional training? Like, did you go to university and you're actually like an English major? Like, what?
No, I'm actually a sociology and business management major. And, I didn't actually even complete university. I kind of just did what I needed to do to get through and move up at work. So, like, I was always a writer, though. Like, that was one of the things that I could just throw an essay together for whatever class I needed to, at 3:00 in the morning the night before, and do well. Like, it was just a innate ability. I am one of those people. But like, one of the things that kind of attributes to, I guess, the success of the last minute writing thing is that like I'm constantly thinking about how I'm going to put this together. So like, it may be 2:00 in the morning when I actually kind of spit everything out onto a page, because staring at a blank page for hours is, super productive. But like, when I'm like, I don't know how to start this sentence, so I'm going to throw like a word on there and kind of come back to it. And just like, if I'm getting writer's block, then I just do more research, honestly. Like, go back, especially for like the arena stuff, because I'm not as familiar with PvP. Like, I've always watched the tournaments, but other than like the casting, I didn't always necessarily really get into kind of the nuance. And that was one of the things I really loved about the format this year, is having Zico on as an analyst was amazing, because it finally just clicked. And so I was like, this is awesome. I want to do more, which is why I jumped into Liquidpedia and, kind of started to make acquaintance with like you guys and some of the casters and that sort of things, because like, I get it now, and I want to help. I love this. I want to make it grow. So yeah, like, overthinking and research is kind of like my gig. So once I finally get that together and get over the hump of like, throwing that first sentence on the page, like, then it flows like a waterfall.
And so you come at this from more of the MDI. And now we don't really cover a lot of that on this show. I mean, how is the MDI doing? I mean,
it's grown in the last couple of years since Mythic Plus was introduced in Legion. It started out with the TESPA collegiate tournaments, and those were really well received. Last year, the only thing that they did was actually the finals, so it was nice to see them expand into multiple weeks for each of the regions. And the concurrent viewership just crushed what the viewers were for the PvP. Like the Arena Cups now are doing fantastic, where we're seeing, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people watching. But like early in the year, you'd see like 12 to 15,000 people watching, whereas you'd see one of the regional cups for MDI, you'd see easily 50K. So it was just like and PvP is kind of that more niche interest because, in my opinion, the barrier to entry is a lot higher than it is for dungeons, because like you're doing those while you're leveling up. You see them to get your daily stuff done and get your, rewards and whatnot, and just being able to be super, super familiar with that content, but watch people who are just on point. It's the same kind of fervor that you see for the mythic rating and like the world first, like hundreds of thousands of people tuned in to watch Method for the Red Bull thing.
Really
that
crazy.
Was amazing.
That was really crazy. I never would have thought to see World of Warcraft top the Twitch viewership, and there it was with Method leading the way. I was completely shocked. I mean, they were killing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they cracked over 100K, right?
Oh yeah. No, there was I can't remember what day it was, but I looked on Twitch and they outperformed Fortnite, I believe.
Yeah,
during a certain time block. And that was just like, what in the world?
Yeah. That's big.
I am so, because I personally enjoyed playing during Legion, but I was dismayed by seeing some of the viewership numbers from the Legion esports. In BFA, there seems to be a
Resurgent.
Well played, Dandelion.
Yes,
well played.
The subtle plug.
It's true though. Like,
I'm just kidding. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There has been a breath of fresh air.
Well,
and it's been
it was 50K this weekend.
Consistency.
It was 50K.
Like, I mean, that's one of the big things about like traditional sports and some of the other esports is that, especially like OWL, you're seeing months of content every single weekend, that sort of thing. And so I think that's what lends a lot of success to what the esports program is doing this year, is just the consistency. Like, we've had stuff almost every single weekend since February, and we've never done that before. So it's just awesome. Like, I know I can tune in every weekend and see something, and that's
totally,
you get invested that way. It's like, they did this week. What are they going to do next week? I gotta see.
So I just have to ask a question then. Like, where you said, like, so you did some school. It wasn't exactly like you're really good at writing, but it wasn't really like your main forte. What made you first start writing articles though for BlizzPro? Like, where would that come from?
Just like we didn't have as many WoW writers, and so like our heroes and our Hearthstone content. It's funny because a lot of people that did stuff for BlizzPro actually work for Blizzard now. So the passion was there. So it was nice to work with other people and see what they're doing. And I just wanted to my podcast had ended, but BlizzPro is like another family to me. I love those guys. And so I wanted to stick around and, help them. So I just started writing little articles of stuff that I thought was neat and throw it up there. And, the owner of the site loved what I was doing, and then they needed help with like social media. So, got hooked into that and start engaging their account and getting more posts going, and, actually like taking the time to like respond to people and engage and that sort of thing. So it just kind of went from there.
Well, awesome.
That is, yeah. And I love that fact that you went from like just joining into something that you really loved and just kind of delved into it, and then it's growing to this. Like, this is hopefully it leads into some sort of permanent work as well, especially since you've lost out on your current employment.
Right.
That would,
yeah.
I would hope so. So I have to admit, I went back and I took a look at the BlizzPro stuff, and a lot of it was very PvE centric, which I would say leans to what you were doing at the time. But then there was like this shift that happened when you started putting into esports stuff. This is before MDI even, but where'd that come from? Why did you suddenly shift from what you're used to something new?
Most of the esports, like, I've been came from Heroes of the Storm coverage. So like I started helping them out for Heroes of the Dorm and that sort of thing, like, because there wasn't as much WoW content as Heroes content, so that was kind of where I latched onto. And then with Legion, the Mythic Plus, like it's such an amazing system, and I loved it so much. And so when it started to creep up with like the exhibition races at different conventions, it's like, oh, this could be an esport. This could be, oh god, I hope they make this competitive. This is awesome. So like when it kicked in, like I was just immediately jumped right into it. So because like I love Heroes, but WoW is my baby. So actually having the opportunity to dive into it consistently just stole my heart, and I love it. I love the esports community. It's so tight knit, and you know, like everybody just always supports each other, and it's wonderful.
I find that interesting because, as you pointed out, people feel that there's a barrier to entry there. But I've always felt whenever I delved into it, it was I felt nothing but welcoming arms. Yeah, there were some people that had some acid on their hands, but for the most part,
yeah,
it was welcoming arms.
Well, and I would definitely say it's how you step into it. You know, if you step into it with a meek and humble heart, going, "Hey, I'm brand new. I'm here to learn," then I think the community is much more willing to accept that versus the, hey, I've been playing since vanilla. I know how to do this crap. And then the PvP community is going to be like, oh, you're one of those guys. Okay.
I think more so people are tired by being inundated with, hi, I've been playing WoW for XYZ since this expansion. Teach me.
Yeah. Like you're not entitled to anything. If you want to see something out of it, you're going to have to put in the work. And so like, and that's one of the things I think like people that I know have come to me about, especially with like the Mythic Plus, of how do you get into it. And it's like, I wasn't rating, so I didn't have the eye level to do it. And I'm a DPS, so you know, they're a dime a dozen, that sort of thing. But just keeping trying and seeing what people are doing and be like, oh, we do this skip here, and then sharing that information with the next group that I ran it in, and just kind of slowly gathering that kind of hive knowledge from plugging, because like people can be super salty and toxic. I just kind of ignore them because I want to get the dungeon done, you know, but I'm not afraid to apply to something that might be kind of out of my league and, you know, do a super, super high key by comparison to what what my Raider IO score might be. And just trying and not being afraid to get declined 20 times before you get accepted for one, and then just kind of going from there, because persistence for me is just always kind of the key. It's like fake it till you make it and just keep trying, because eventually you're gonna break that ceiling, and it's great, you know.
And I would definitely agree that very much applies on the PvP side of things with the arenas. You know, it's that very similar process of like, you just start in, you're learning, you're figuring out, and then suddenly it flips and you understand.
Yep.
So yeah. So, I mean, what would you recommend to people who are, they have a passion for World of Warcraft and they want to produce some content? I mean, where would you point them?
As far as like what kind of content to do?
Anything. Like somebody has a passion for World of Warcraft. They're, an average player, but at the same time, they just love the game and they want to contribute. Where would you say to go?
Honestly, like if you're gonna write, like Medium is super awesome because it's like connected to Twitter, so you can auto post from there, and it's very easy format. Or write for yourself first. Create things for you. Expect to not have anybody pay attention to you, because as long as the passion comes through, people are gonna start seeing that and telling their friends, and that sort of thing. Is just like, I stream occasionally, and like I'm always shocked when I see more than like 3 people in my stream, or even more than 1. But I don't know, you keep plugging away. it sounds dumb. It sounds really, really hard because you don't get that gratification of, people giving you good feedback or they give you bad feedback. And like, if you get negative feedback, like look for the thing that might actually be room for improvement or that sort of thing.
A funny thought came into mind with if you're, especially, I mean, when we first started this podcast, we had 0 listeners, like nobody listened, and we've built up an honest audience, and it's accumulated over time. And, negative feedback means that somebody's paying attention.
Yep.
So yes, success.
Yeah.
Somebody listened, somebody read my article, somebody paid attention. And then on top of that was willing to respond, and that's just huge. That really
like if somebody cared enough to put forth the effort, and like, it's the same kind of thing when you see a lot of negativity from the community. It's like they cared enough to say something, even if it's, full of expletives and whatever. There's always kind of a kernel of what they're actually trying to get at. And so like, like that's kind of where like the sociology from me from college and stuff kind of comes into, is like how people behave in a group is very interesting. And that sort of thing where you get people
I had to chuckle at that.
Yeah. And just like, people that are saying, they act like they're speaking for the entirety of, their class or the player base or something like that. And like one of the coolest things I think I read when it comes to seeing feedback like that, because like I'm very, very fond of Blizzard, and so some of the really negative stuff, like, it's not directed at me. I don't technically work for Blizzard, though I've done work for them, but like I take it a little personal sometimes. But it's like they cared enough. But there is this blog called Ask a Game Dev, and they put out an article. It was called 80-25, and 80% of the player base will never go to the forums or look for outside resources or that sort of thing. And then you've got 20% that are, engaged. They'll at least look things up. And then you've got like this 5%, and, and in terms of like, especially high end rating, it's like 0.01%. And people sit there and ask like they're speaking for the entire player base. And it's like, realistically, everything is not designed for you. And that's okay. If you don't want to engage with PvE, you don't have to. Occasionally there's some spillover, obviously, for especially with like
tank
I
trinkets.
can't believe
the tank trinkets is very interesting. But it was at their disposal. Like, why would you not use that if you had the ability to do it? Which obviously Blizzard responded and be like, nah, that wasn't how we intended this, so we're gonna kind of dial that back for you. In the essence of fairness. And so like that was a very kind of sobering realization, is that like not everything in the game is designed for me to consume. I'm going to focus on the things that I enjoy. If I'm going to be angry about something, maybe take a minute before, hollering on Twitter or something like that, of like, what about it really bothers me? And it's like, I don't have a lot of negative criticisms of WoW, because some things like I try to understand the intent of the design before I get upset about how it impacts me. And I think a lot of people don't do that. And so like, especially with BFA, because I do raid now, but Mythic Plus is still my thing. Like that's where I put all of my homework and my energy, and try to engage with that community, and have a dialogue with people and finding new strats and that sort of thing, and people to group with. I'm not super thrilled about the Azerite system and how you can't really get Azerite for doing Mythic Plus except for the weekly cash, and then it's still kind of a random thing. So if I want high item level Azerite, which still has those main stats, and that matters when you're doing a high key and mechanics hit for more than your health pool, like sometimes you just need that item level. No matter how good of a player you are, there's still stuff that you just can't survive every time. So to have that, like, I had high hopes of like how tier sets worked, and with those going away, it was like, yay, I can do Mythic Plus, I can still get my Azerite gear, I can do exactly what I want when I want, and, you know, have fun with that. And like the way that the restriction is, I understand, like, it's to help people you know, not overextend themselves and burn themselves out, because if it was available all the time, it would be easily farmable, and it would be the same kind of thing where people were, you know, running low keys of Mauve Souls to get the maximum amount of AP because it was the most efficient way to do the thing. And so, and that had a lot of negative energy from it because people couldn't control themselves. Like, that's ultimately what it boiled down to. It's like, well, my guild expects me to do that. And it's like, yeah, but you could say no. You know, and if they move you, then you need to find something that fits your needs a little bit more. You know, like I used to raid really high end and it wasn't fun. So I raided on a more casual level and then stopped raiding altogether.
Well, look what happened during Wrath, right? You had 10, 25 plus heroics, right? Like, and people were burning themselves out because they thought, or they
Trial
felt
of the Crusader
that was
such a grind, because I did it on 10, on 25, normal and heroic every single week for months. And like, while the encounters in there were super awesome, and they're still some of my favorites, but
I love the PvP one in there.
That was like the one I was scared of the most, but like,
I know, right? But when you won it, I was like,
it was super satisfying.
Wasn't just a dance. Yeah.
It was unpredictable. And that's kind of like what the draw about PvP is that it's not super structured to a degree, because you always, you're combating the decisions made by another person, and that's not an algorithm. You know, that's just another human being. So it was really, really cool, but also like, oh my God, what do mind broke sort of thing.
So I kind of have a question, and I think, you know, we've kind of touched on some really interesting things here. But personally, I was actually thinking just earlier this weekend, I was like, you know, maybe it's just me, I'm pretty involved in the esports community. But from my point of view on where I stand, I feel like there's a lack of journalism in the esports community. So I wanted to kind of get your take on that and kind of hear what your opinion was.
I think that's kind of the case. Like, I think if there was one criticism that I had, especially for WoW esports, is that there just isn't much of it. Like, you don't really see esports coverage on Wowhead, which, you know, is a huge outlet for kind of WoW news. It would be nice if we saw something there more. A lot of other Blizzard franchises have esports dedicated social media channels. WoW doesn't. You have to see it through the main Warcraft account. Like, if you go to the Blizzard launcher, you'll see advertisements for some of their other franchises for esport things on the WoW launch page. And like, it just, I feel like there could be such a greater push that would, you know, give that exposure to people, because if you don't see it, you don't know about it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
I know. I thought about trying to find multiple people to write different articles, because I feel like it's such an untapped thing here, where you could have, you know, great content coming out of a web-based site to be able to like say, like, you know, what's new in the world of WoW esports. You know, like, where else do you go for that? Like, because the only place that comes to mind is Kalandra's,
technically PvP.
WoW esports.
Yeah, like, you guys do an amazing job covering the PvP.
Sorry, I totally took away from Kalandra there.
Rude. So rude.
She saw the humor.
But yeah, she does a great job.
Oh, she does an amazing job too. There's a few. I agree though. There's a few people out there, but you compare that to the write-ups for the multitude of other esports out there. But I guess the difference is though, like, World of Warcraft was never designed originally for esports.
Right.
It was
that was a retroactive thing.
Oh, completely.
Well, and it's one of those
national PvP stuff was that retroactive.
It's one of those really weird things where it's like World of Warcraft was kind of the forerunner. You know, we were one of the first esports, but at the same time, we weren't ever designed to be a sporting event, and so it's very we were one of the first, but we're also one of the least involved.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Warcraft
was the first.
Warcraft 3 was like Dota really.
Yeah, but that's an RTS. Like,
well, and it was an RTS. I mean, StarCraft. I mean, esports in my mind really didn't kick off until like 2008, 2010 is when esports really started taking off.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, they were doing, the Arena World Championships, 2006, 2005.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I remember my first BlizzCon in 2009. The esports for that wasn't WoW. It was still Warcraft 3. Like, they were still doing, tournaments for that, which was kind of mind-boggling because I didn't know about Warcraft as an RTS. Like, I was introduced to Warcraft from WoW sort of thing. So, like...
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I started playing in BC, but I didn't have...
Oh, you're one of those kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Garrison, not everybody can be vanilla players like us.
Yeah,
nice.
And because of that, that's one of those things that I'm kind of excited about stuff like Classic, is because I wasn't around for it, even though,
oh gosh, Classic
like, oh my
PvP.
god, it's the camping.
I'm actually not sure. I'm going to be honest on this, and I know this is a deviation from what we're talking about, but I'm not sure if I'm going to play the demo or not at BlizzCon.
I'll play the demo just to feel it and be like, oh gosh, yes, this was terrible. And then I'll go back to live and be very happy with myself.
But
despite how rough it might be, as the PvEer that I tend to be, I want to see the original Nax so bad. I want to see, I want to do that grind for Atiyesh because you can't get it anymore. So I can't even get scratch that nostalgic itch because it's not there. So I want that. I may hate myself for it, but just sheer force of will, I will get through it, I hope.
I mean, there's a reason that things are a lot easier nowadays in World of Warcraft. And I will straight up say things are easier now in World of Warcraft. And it was because when Warcraft first came out, the target player base was young, college, all the time in the world.
Yep.
And it was enjoyable to, on a weekend, just dump 12 to 15 hours into a session with your friends, grinding stuff. But
it was also based off of EverQuest, which was what that
was the play style. That was the play style.
Yeah.
And the problem with me going back into Classic is I don't have the same time frame to push into Classic. And so there's no way I'm going to be able to play it and be satisfied with what I'm doing.
What, you mean you're not in college and still 20-something?
No, I'm 34. I have 2 kids and a wife. And if I played half the amount of time that I played in college, I would be divorced very, very quickly.
Yeah.
All right.
The soundproof box is the thing for that already.
Maybe I should just get divorced. No, that's a terrible idea.
That would be
I love my
that.
That's amazing.
You're in your sound box.
I am in my sound box. I'm in my own little world right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I think people forget is that it's not so much that it's easier, it's just that it's tailored around different levels of commitment, I guess. And so it's in my opinion, the raids that you saw in Molten Core are just, you needed to organize 40 people, but that was where a lot of the difficulty came from. It seemed the mechanics there seemed like such a snooze fest, where if you see, the crazy
you just take frost mages. Just take frost mages. You'll be fine. A tank, a few frost mages, 37 of them, and then some healers, you're good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just
something like that.
But you could have a lot of dead weight on a 40-man team, whereas now you've got the mythic 20-man, every single person needs to be on point, especially in that early progression. Oh, yeah. And so I know one of Blizzard's kind of tenets for how the way that they design things is easy to learn but difficult to master. And so yeah, you can pick it up real easy and be fine in LFR or normal or heroic, and then you get into mythic and it's just a huge brick wall for some people.
I mean,
the
honestly,
same thing
still
for,
they throw it in LFR where you need to still do some mechanics or you're going to wipe out on that boss.
Yep.
Right? Like there's a few of those. So
Yeah. Mother was real interesting on day one.
I haven't done any LFR. I have done 0.
Yeah, I don't ever intend on doing any either. It just sounds like a miserable experience.
I'm the kind of sadist masochist that does it even when I don't need the gear. Like, mostly it's to get, like, the runes and stuff like that. But I don't know, I always kind of enjoyed doing LFR and just seeing a different subsect of players do things, and also maybe occasionally feel really good about myself being on the top of the meters because I can't do that otherwise. so there's my gratification, but it's I like to understand players and different subsects of the game and just see how that stuff. So going into LFR is always kind of fun and interesting to me, and so like
I will say it's always interesting.
Yes.
Always interesting. Sometimes
and
fun.
Fun is subjective.
But always, always interesting.
Yeah, and
so I love this. I love this conversation. I love this, but I want to roll it back a little bit. I need to pull us back in because we delved from PvP to esports writing to talking about LFR.
My bad.
Actually, I blame Winstead, but that's okay.
What are you talking about? You're the conductor. You are the conductor of this train. Do not even blame me.
I blame who I want.
Sorry, I'm one of those cats that needs to be herded.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But that's the thing. Like, I appreciate it because it's conversation. It's World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is a very large world. It's a compilation of many different styles. You have your PvE, you have your PvP, you have RBGs, arenas, you have your dungeons, your mythic dungeons, your raiding, which is LFR, normal, mythic. I mean, you even have your battle pet thing where you can, or your pet battles where you can even PvP pet battling. Who knew that was going to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I love it, and I think, like we talked, you hit on this earlier, is that there is a multitude of ways to play the game, and no one way is the best way, and nothing's wrong with playing a part of it. It kills me when I see people go Chernobyl on forums or in social media saying how they're done with the game. There's nothing left to do. It's like, well, no, there's a lot of things to do in the game. You're just not willing to do them. Like there's, and I appreciate that, trying to learn enough about it, trying to research enough about something like that, and then to write about it to the player base that will then go back toward and can either, commend you for the writing or try to say something otherwise, either constructive or negative towards you about what you've done, is also commendable. And I want to commend you there, Sam, for doing that. I guess, last but not least, where do you find the inspiration to write certain things? Like, do you just do it on your own and then, I guess, offer it back towards to try to find a buyer per se, or does like people always reach out to you only and then you write for that reason? Like, I guess where does that come from?
Like,
where do you go?
So I'm still super new to freelancing. Like, it's such a completely different world than having a 9-to-5 job for the last 10 years. So a lot of it, like, I have relied on, being referred to stuff from other people. But then going from there, like, I still have to prove myself and, put forth a good product, so to speak, that somebody wants to read. And, because editors are like, especially like the Esports Observer one, like, I probably wrote 4,000 words for that article, and it ended up being the length that it was just because it was a constant dialogue of like, hey, I want to convey this right. Well, this doesn't come off. This is too detailed, or the voice was wrong and that sort of thing. And so like I need to still learn how to kind of throw myself out there and actually like the thing I'm scared of the most is pitching ideas, because it's just kind of like really wild to me to just, poke people out and be like, hey, I have super cool ideas. Do you have the slightest shred of an interest in listening to me? Yes? Perfect. No? All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's...
That takes a certain amount of gall, if you would.
Yeah. And like...
Gall. He was a good boss.
All right. We're staying away from PV Wednesday.
I'm sorry. I'm alone in my box listening to the voices in my head.
Those crazy faces.
Winston, stop it.
Yes, comrade.
Right.
I will take care of Winston. Give me a minute.
What have I done? All right. Anyway, okay. I guess... Andalin, Winstead, do you guys have any other questions you would want to put Sam on the spot for?
I imagine.
So-
go ahead.
No, you.
Well, I was
please.
gonna just pull it right into the what would you change, rather skillfully and artfully.
Not yet.
But in order for me to do that, you have to make sure that there's nothing left you want to say.
Okay. So I was going to say, let's say, somebody's interested in journalism, because I was a big college WoW player. All right. Let's say there's a journalism, individuals there who are studying that at their universities. And I think one of the questions that I would ask is, what do you enjoy writing about the most as far as WoW? Like what is the fun, if you were given a range of articles or something like, hey, I need some articles written about these topics. Like, what are your go-tos? What's just like, oh, it's so fun writing about this. And esports is not a good answer.
Like the dungeon thing. If I had the time to just kind of I know there's guides out there, but the metas change every single week because the affixes change, and just I would really love to dump lots and lots of time into putting forth some of the tricks and the skips. And so I think that was something that kind of came out in my MDI coverage articles was some of the tricks that they used that were nuts. It's oh my god, how did they pull this off? Or especially the Black Rick Hold spell steal thing with one of the casters.
Right,
yeah, I would always steal it, but I wouldn't sit there and nurse it through the entire dungeon. But once that happened, it was oh hey, yeah, maybe I actually will bother completely going spell stealing this thing before we kill it, and then just going in and nuking stuff. So it seeing those live broadcasts challenged what I already knew about those dungeons and how I would go about and do them, and having that broadcast and seeing that and being able to just share that with other people is kind of my favorite part of there's such a amazing collection of knowledge out there that kind of hides away in little corners of the interwebs. I would like to share.
Nice. So I guess what you're saying is if anybody out there besides yourself has the inspiration and the willingness to put forth the effort, there's definitely a spot in the journalist
world of Warcraft.
the journalist world of Warcraft on which could actually feed into almost like a weekly something. Of that. That'd be awesome. I guess my one last question before we go into, I know Winstead is burning to ask you the next part, but first,
no, I don't have a screen in front of me. I'm in my box. I have no screen. I was just gonna guess at to what the last question was. What would you change?
Your favorite part?
Yeah.
Well, I guess before we get to the one thing you would change, though, is there any other advice you give to anybody out there that's aspiring possibly thinking about writing?
Like I said earlier, write for yourself. I know one of the WoW esports writers, she was just throwing stuff up on Medium forever, and then she got picked up by Inver something esports, and I keep forgetting her name. But like, it was cool to see her like, oh hey, I just did this for me, and then somebody thought that was amazing. You know, like I kind of got thrown into the esports journalism in the weirdest way possible, and it was because I knew someone. And so like the fear of like, oh God, I'm completely incompetent. The only reason I have this opportunity is because of nepotism, but like the urge to put in all of the work and make sure that like the faith that my friend had in me to do something that I really didn't feel like I had the experience for. Like I constantly was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how do I communicate this? Like that was really a lot. And so like, it got easier just every time that I did it. And, you know, like just to kind of get through that roadblock of like staring at a blank page, because that is like the bane of every writer ever, is, you know, I would just put like one word and maybe be that a subtitle, and then, you know, change it 15 times along the way, and then slowly those like bits and pieces just grew once you started throwing the words out there. And it's like nothing is ever going to be done on the first draft. You're always going to have to go back and, you know, change things and communicate more clearly. And like, I also have the blessing of my other half being a technical writer, and so he's very good at making things more concise than my ramblingness will go. But as I've seen him, you know, give me edits back, I've start to learn like what to look for and kind of identify my own weaknesses. And like, you know, what I wrote at, you know, 10 a.m., I go back and I look at it at 1 o'clock in the morning and be like, I need to fix that. Or I have a way better idea here. And yeah, it's okay to tweak. It's okay to write garbage and then fix it. And yeah.
Nice.
That would be my...
Write drunk, edit sober,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, I have definitely, you know, just like, I don't need to sleep. I'm totally just going to finish this at 6 o'clock in the morning, get 2 hours of sleep, and go back and edit it. And, you know, actually be like, oh, this was amazing. I was so scared to put this out and I love it, sort of thing. So, yeah.
The lack of inhibition has resulted in some of the most amazing writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Winstead, fire away on your next question.
Well, I was just gonna, you know, ask on the lines of what you would change. And like I said, I can't see the screen. I'm in my box. My computer is in a completely different compartment. And so, Garsar, is it something along the lines of what you would change in the coverage of esports for World of Warcraft?
It sounds like a phenomenal idea.
Honestly, at least for me personally, like, because I'm a freelancer, you know, they only have so much of a budget in terms of like what they can spend on putting articles out. So like, I just wish I had the opportunity to write more frequently, because I have lots and lots of ideas bouncing around in my head, and I'm always kind of afraid of like losing that when I've got other content to put out, or, you know, stuff that I'm brainstorming for later on in the year. And like, if I wasn't worried about paying bills, money not being an object, I would just write all the time, you know, like that's my biggest criticism is kind of WoW esports, is that there's the consistency of content makes people want to come back. Like, consistency is so important in terms of like the broadcast, because, you know, you get invested, or you know, that was kind of a podcast thing I noticed when I was doing mine. If we would skip a show, the listener base might be a little bit low for that next one until we, you know, got back on track and that sort of thing. Because people, if the content isn't there for them to go and consume, then they look for it somewhere else. And so,
yes,
like, that's my biggest thing, is I wish there's such a huge opportunity for really neat stuff to do. But again, it has to do with budget, and I totally get that. Like, you can tell that the WoW esports budget is a little bit smaller just because of like the size of the cups. It's a different animal, and so they do what they can with what they've got, and the injection of what they're doing with the tournaments this year is amazing, and I'm so hopeful for, you know, what it'll end up being next year. And even just as a freelancer, like being able to talk to people in their esports teams, sometimes it's like, oh gosh, I love what you're doing, I want to tell you that I love it, I can't wait to see what you're doing next, and I hope it grows. And so, you know, I want to promote all of that as much as possible.
Excellent.
I love it. Winstead, though.
Well, I think it is very plainly obvious what the esports coverage needs is they need some new faces on that desk. And I think there's 3 faces, namely Garrisar, Andolin, and myself, that would make a wonderful addition to the desk that, you know, highlights the games and all that fun stuff. And, you know, just putting it out there that, you know, Ben Ruki is a very handsome fellow. Super Tees. I mean, oh my gosh. I can't remember which. I think it was 3 tournaments ago. I was looking at the desk and I looked over at this bald guy that, you know, looked vaguely familiar, but he just was very like slendered and trim. And I was looking at him like, where do I know that guy? Oh my gosh, it's Super Tees.
Yeah, he's
so props to him. Props to him on his weight loss. He is just like really taken that by the horns and just done what needed to happen to get him into great looking shape. I mean, he's got a little bit more work to do, but oh my gosh, props to him. And he's just continue. So I mean, they have some great looking faces, you know, and but I think
Rich Campbell's mustache.
I think that we could you know. Change it up a little bit, you know, put some new faces on there.
Yeah, that was one thing that I thought was really nice for the MDI cast, is that they had new people this year in addition to, you know, people that were doing it last year. And like, for me as, you know, a female player, seeing a female caster is awesome. Like for Heroes, Gillyweed is my favorite caster, you know, because she's just so excited, and so having that representation is really, really awesome. Like I dive with that more than anything, so seeing Nagora there was really, really cool. It's kind of like, oh hey, maybe I could, if I learned how to talk to myself a little bit better about walking through my dungeons, maybe I could cast someday. But you know, that's
there you go for it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's the thing I would change, you know. Andolin, what about you?
Okay.
See, I've been, it's always a tough question for me, because it's like, it's one of those things that I would change. And I think one of the things that I would like to change is something that I try to be that change, which is, I'd like to see there be more, like, at least in WoW, more stuff going on right now, you know, because it's like, you know, AWC will happen and then that'll be it, you know. And recently the MDI was a nice addition to that. And it kind of diversified like what you could do in the world of esports with WoW. But I think that it'd be really cool if the community had a much stronger representation, to be able to have like all sorts of different tournaments and all sorts of different competitions and all sorts of different different events that I think the game would flourish, and I think the community would just be so enamored by that I think this game would take on a whole different culture that I don't think it's ever seen before.
We need more GCD TVs. Like, I mean, Blizzard hired the people that run that, and you know, they have a huge impact on the kind of thing that we're seeing now, and it's awesome. And like, Resurgent has the opportunity to do that same thing. So it's like, if there's more people buying into it, the more it grows. You know, grassroots is so important for growth of that sort of thing, and that's what we need, is people willing to put it out there. You know, even if it's, you know, tiny prize pools, like they can grow as interest goes.
Agreed.
Garrisar?
Tiny increments lead to big things.
Garrisar, what would you change?
So this is something that's been something I've been wanting. I've talked about it a few times, and it hasn't come to fruition. I've tried to do it a bit myself, but I don't have the ability to talk to people. I'm not great at writing it, and just trying to get people to give me the information. But I want to see player articles. I want to learn about these players. I want to learn about what they're like. I want to learn their personalities. I want that stuff. It's all great to read a recap of what happened on the weekend. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love those, but I want to also see that other evergreen information of, this is, Nick from Neat. He is X year old. He joined playing World of Warcraft at, I don't know, Cataclysm maybe. Or he didn't start playing until WoD. And then he decided to do this. And this is how he became the rogue that outplayed Jamili. And like how did that happen? I want to read about that.
So I have a funny anecdote about that when you're done.
Oh, well, I'm done.
Okay.
that was about it.
So, like, the first foray before I got the job doing stuff for Blizzard, I agree with you. You couldn't find anything. Like, there were incomplete player bios on Wikipedia. You couldn't find anything anywhere. Exactly. Like, I tried to do digging. So I had actually put together a huge questionnaire, and reached out to D Machine and whatnot, and actually jumped into all of the Discord channels for the various regions and was like, hey, I have this questionnaire. Is it cool if I put it out here? Because I wanted to, learn the names, learn their ages, learn how long they'd been playing. Right. And they were really, really supportive of it, because having that information out there, those players have to market themselves. They have to market their personal brand, and promote their Twitters and their streams and that sort of thing. But herding PvP players is kind of like herding cats, and I didn't have as big of a turnout as I was hoping for. I got a handful of really good responses from some younger players on smaller teams that didn't necessarily make it to the live broadcast. But yeah, I would love to get that information from everyone and publish that kind of stuff. So it's I want them to be please do this thing.
I wanted
be excited as we
I
are.
wanted to do it on Wikipedia, but Wikipedia right now in the alpha stage, they're restricted by what they can do. We have to get beyond alpha and into beyond to have free reign. And to do that we need more. And it's this weird kind of, it's a teeter-totter almost. So
yeah.
All right. Okay. Into our trivia question. So the previous question was, what debuff follows the paladin protection spells Divine Shield and Blessing Protection to disallow them from casting similar spells on the same target? Answer was Forbearance.
Sadly.
I can't think of the number of times I'm happy that a paladin was not able to bop themselves after they shield themselves, because just reasons.
And there's been some wonderful events in PvP where mind control and then casting a dispellable thing that causes forbearance and then training the paladins have been rather hilarious.
That yes.
That was on the last X Pack, yeah.
Oh, come on. That kind of cheese is super fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. Except for the paladin. But anyways, so I want to say congrats to Leoseed from Area 52 for being the first to correctly answer. And I just want to comment, it's kind of funny. They wrote in and provided the answer, and they're like, I know this is super late. And then I told him that he won. He's like, I totally won. I thought it was like super late. So please, listeners, if you're not like day one, still send in an answer, right? Like, you never know.
Well, and I want to throw in on this real quick, because I think we have these great pop quiz questions and stuff like that, and I want to throw out a competition here. Okay, so recently, I wasn't even on the shows when the gentleman like offered to pay for a month of WoW for somebody. And to spark a little bit more competition, because, I mean, let's face it, we are a PvP podcast. Here's what I'm going to say, is that I will buy somebody a month of WoW. But here's the conditions, is that you get an entry every time you answer the question correctly. And let's see, let's do a New Year's. At New Year's, we'll have a random drawing and a winner for a free month of WoW. And you get to enter for every question, okay?
Oh, so every correct answer is
an entry.
Ballot into
is a
your
ballot
draw.
entry. And so, our New Year's show will announce a winner. And, you get, I think to do it a little bit more fun is if you are the first one to get it correctly, that's 2 entries. Everyone after that is 1 entry.
Okay. Fair.
And so then New Year's, it's a few months away. It's going to be 4, 5, 6, maybe 9 shows. So a potential of 9 entries. And winner gets a month of WoW.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Thanks, Winstead. All right. Well, you heard it here. So not this one?
No, this one. We start now.
This one?
We start now, buddy. Now is the time to get your entries in for the New Year's, resolution of playing more WoW.
How about we start with next week's question then?
What?
Because
I'll go ahead and I'm going to spice up the ante because I feel like 1 month is kind of lackluster. I'm going to go ahead and say if we get 50 responses, 50 people to answer the question right, then I will change the 1 month to a full year.
Whoa.
Nice.
Can you even buy a full year? I think you can't. You can buy a full year?
you can.
Okay.
But this is the funny part is if the current thing that's going on right now is if we do that in January and it's still extended to that date and time, that will also include the boat.
Ooh, that's true. That's true.
All right. So everybody. So you heard it here first.
So it's if we have a low level of competition, it's 1 month. If we have a high level of competition, it's 1 year. So it's all on you, listeners. All on you. Inflate it.
End of season push.
Oh boy.
Create multiple Twitter accounts. Totally cheese it up. I want feedback. I want feedback.
Stop. Okay. All right. So I want to thank Leoside for sending in his answer. The follow-on competition that we're talking about, we're going to start that starting next episode. So this is the warning for that. And then we'll start counting from the... What's that? That's going to be the 16th and beyond.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. There's the other thing. Leoside also wanted to say, he said in his email as an answer, also let Vindy know Sanctified Wrath is better than Avenging Crusader. In fact, you can actually do better DPS as a Holy Pally with Sanctified Wrath as your Holy Shock is up every 4 seconds. I just had a hard time keeping people topped off with melee wings doing that. So, all right. So, next week's question. And this is for the money peoples. All right. Botar just joined Temple Storm this week, or just last week. What are the names of the 2 other teams that he played on?
Ooh, excellent question.
Spicy.
So send your answer to technicallypvp@gmail.com. And the first correct answer will earn a shout out on the next show, and you guys know the rest.
And they get 2.
right.
First shout out gets 2 entries for the event, right? I mean, this is the question that starts the event, right? So this is the one, guys.
Yes.
First correct response, 2 entries. Every single response after that is 1 entry.
All right. Speaking of shout outs, anybody else have any shout outs?
I'd like to shout out to my wife for not killing me. Ace is a wonderful woman.
Anlin or Sam? Anybody else?
I'm going to shout out to my other half who has been across the room, very, very quiet, and in fact, went and got chicken nuggets while we were recording.
Oh my gosh.
Was he listening?
Did he get any extras? Did they Titan Forge?
Forged into a large fry, so I'll take it.
There we go.
Nice. Poggers, dude. So pog.
Oh my gosh. I think that's Warforged, not Titan Forge. Just saying.
Well, it is a 10-piece, so, totally Titan Forge.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Totally Titan Forge. Totally Titan. That's not a 4-piece. That's awesome. All right. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I guess Sam,
Yes.
where can people find you out there in the interwebs?
The best place is my personal Twitter, which is at Kitchen WoW, which is KTJN WoW. That's the easiest place to find me. So I always try to keep that updated with like where I've got my written works. So it's a little all over the place. But
Cool.
you can definitely.
And I'll add that into our show notes at the bottom as well for where everybody can find everybody.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
all right. I guess Andelin or Winstead, could one of you list off where our listeners can reach us?
I'm doing this with no screen, no script here, guys. So let's see if we can do it. Okay,
Ooh.
sure.
All the money.
You can find us at technically_PvP, or you can get a hold of us on our WordPress at technically.wordpress.com.
Oh, so close.
Oh.
So close.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd give it a B minus.
So let's try this one more time. I'm going to feed you.
There was an attempt.
No, seriously. So just do the Twitter and the email. So it's technically_PvP for Twitter.
Or you can
technically
email
PvP
us at technically.pvp.com at gmail.com. There we go.
Yeah. So one more time.
Okay. Sure. You can get a hold of us at on Twitter at technically_PvP. Or you can email us at technicallypvp@gmail.com.
Awesome.
That's right. Or you can visit our blog for all of our individual contact information at technicallypvp.wordpress.com. And as always, a link will be available for all of you in the show notes.
Indeed. And last but not least, you can also join our Discord or our Battle.net community, and the links for those will also be in the show notes. You know what? Thank you all for listening, and we will chat with you next time. Good night, all.
Good night, guys.
Have a good night. Take care.
You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, or directly from the RSS feed at libsyn.com. Please give us some reviews on Apple Podcasts, good or bad. It helps us know what we're doing well or poorly and helps others find the podcast. This has been a presentation of Technically PvP Podcast 2018.